How to speak politician. Let me be clear. I'm now going to lie to you. We've been very clear about this. We've all been lying to you. It's not right to comment while there's an ongoing inquiry. We all know he did it, and it's wrong. The inquiry is to hope that you forget all about it. But what I will say... Forget what you asked me. Listen to this. Look, politely interrupting so I can talk about something different. Lessons will be learnt. Nothing will change. He has apologised. He got caught, and I don't want to talk about it. It's now the right thing to do to move forward. I hope you don't notice me changing the subject. We have very clearly set out our strategy. I'm now completely ignoring your questions and talking about what I want to talk about. Your question really stressed me out, but I'm pretending it's nothing. I'm looking forward to taking my youngest to see Taylor Swift. I don't really know what a Taylor Swift is, but I think it's down with the kids.
Have you guys seen this experiment where you can not only test if the people around you are NPCs, but if you yourself are? Check this out. And if you don't know what an NPC is, basically, in the video game world, it's someone that's not being controlled by a person. Just a random computer-generated thing. And in the real world, same thing. Maybe just someone that's not being controlled by a soul. So I heard this experiment on a podcast, and I thought it was kind of crazy, until I tried it out myself. And it has to do with apples. And you can probably use any object, but for our purposes, we're going to stick with apples. So there are going to be multiple layers to what I'm going to ask you to imagine. And depending on how far you can imagine it, might just depend on if you're an NPC or not. So with this blank screen, I want you to picture a red apple here. Can you picture a red apple? If you can, great. So far, you're not an NPC. Next, I'd like you to think of that red apple, and in your mind, you can close your eyes if you need to, think of that apple as green. Can you change it to a green apple? Can you see a green apple without looking at it? Now stick with me, we're getting to the good parts here. If you can picture a red apple and then a green apple, great. But here's where a lot of people get stuck, and I'm taking away the image here. I want you to picture that green apple in your mind, and can you go in and can you pick up that apple? Can you manipulate it? Can you move it around? Can you, in your mind, be holding it and then all of a sudden it turns from green to purple? Do you have the ability to do that? Because for me, I could, no problem. I could hold that, I could throw it, I could take a bite of it. Anything I wanted to do with that apple, I could do in my mind. But the shocking part was, as I was listening to this on the podcast, one person, they were stuck. They couldn't do anything but change colors. They couldn't grab it. They couldn't manipulate it. It was stuck there. One person couldn't even change colors of the apple. But I didn't believe this until I tried it on my wife. And my wife, she could change the color. She could go green and red, but she didn't have the ability to manipulate that apple. She couldn't grab that apple. She couldn't throw that apple. I'm juggling this apple. I'm doing all sorts of things with it. But hers is just a stuck image. And I thought that was nuts. I thought just because I had the ability to manipulate things in my mind and control things, that everybody did. But clearly that's not the case. And this leads me down the path of maybe this is why some people can't grasp the topics or the understanding of not living where we've been told we live our entire lives. Because they can't visualize it. They can't think outside the green and red apple. Now, I'm not actually saying my wife is an NPC, but I do think our brains operate differently. I do think some are more right, some are more left, some are right down the middle, and some just don't really choose to think. But try it out, guys, because I found it.
So I want you to look at this photo here. This photo was taken in the 19th century. And do you know who these people are? No? Neither do I. And I can guarantee almost no one else on this planet knows who they were either. But here they are. Look, they were living their life. They most likely had worries, anxieties, fears. They were constantly looking ahead towards the future. They were doubting themselves. And guess what? No one remembers. It's like they weren't even here. And I'm going to say something that might make you a bit sad for a moment, but please don't let it. This is going to be you one day. Now that can make you feel quite sad, or it can stop you from constantly worrying what other people are thinking about you. It's going to stop you from constantly worrying about making a fool of yourself or looking bad in front of other people, and to just live the life that you want to live, because this is going to be you. In 100, 200 years time, this is a fact of life. This is going to be you. If you want to live a quiet life, where you
You've probably heard about the mud flood theory, but have you ever seen how such a thing could have actually been accomplished? This footage is from the 1922 World's Fair in Brazil. It was called the Independence Centenary International Exposition, and it took place in the city of Rio de Janeiro. They're using a tactic known as hydraulic mining or sluicing, in which high-pressure water jets are used to move soil and rocks. The resulting water sediment slurry of mud can then be directed through sluice boxes and channeled elsewhere. Hydraulic mining originally developed from ancient Roman techniques that used water to excavate soft underground deposits. The more modern form using high-pressure nozzles officially came about in the 1850s during the California Gold Rush era. Isn't it interesting that this tactic appeared during the same time frame that we see the World's Fairs occurring, which is also the theorized time frame of the mud flood? And then we see this very technique being used at a World's Fair event.
It might be hard to believe, but filling bags with soil and stacking them layer by layer is actually a method for constructing houses. In Iran, local workers are employing this unique technique to build homes. Just as you see, they first mix clay with water until it's even, then fill it into burlap sacks. At this point, the sacks serve as bricks, methodically stacked one on top of the other, to ensure
Go.
Did you know that the word weird in old terms actually means the ability to control one's fate?
So why the hell wouldn't you want to be weird? And what if I told you that that weirdness that you're so afraid of showing to the world, did you know that the word weird in old terms actually means the ability to control one's fate? So why the hell wouldn't you want to be weird? And what if I told you that that weirdness that you're so afraid of showing to the world is actually what people are going to love most about you?